We'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into a very, very exciting edition of We Have the High Ground, the official Star Wars show of the Pop Culture Universe YouTube channel. Joining me as always is my friend in a much calmer country than mine. It's Bogz. How's it going, bud?
Yeah, much calmer, thankfully. Yeah, all good. Well, not that much calmer, but we have a worldwide pandemic going on. But except for that, I'm all good. Yes. Obviously, we're breaking down the top 10 Star Wars Rebel moments in this episode.
Maybe not 10. Maybe 5.
Sorry,
you made
5.
10, but it's 5.
10, yeah, it's too hard, man. Like, this is the hardest list we've done. Obviously, we've ranked the movies. We've ranked best Mandalorian moments. Other shows. Obviously, we've done best. Check them out, of course. Also, what do we do? The best Christmas movies. This is the hardest list by far. Obviously, there's 4 seasons. So many good moments in. I've got 10. I've labeled 1 to 10, so I'm going to read the top 5. But any one of these 10 could be my number 1. So really tough list. Can't wait to see yours, and I can't wait to see our guests as well.
Yes, we have a very, very special guest who, if Bogz is now the official scouting department of the Pop Culture Universe channel. He's out there scouring the YouTubes for the sharpest in Star Wars minds. Yes, the Outer Rim. Scouring the Outer Rim for the best and brightest young bounty hunters in the galaxy. And joining us is Miss Crystal Kyber. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here. Could you just tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm happy to be here. So I make Star Wars videos on YouTube, and I just love talking about Star Wars. I want to talk about like all the fun stuff that no one talks about, like the different ships and the different foods and like more beauty side of Star Wars. So that's the direction I'm going.
We need some of that around here. We got some,
some
scruffy looking nerf herders over here, so we gotta.
You look good. You look good. You're good.
Well, appreciate.
Oh, you say that to all the YouTubers.
Oh yeah.
No, but like, what's your how did you get into Star Wars? Want to know as well before we get into the list, and what's your favorite movie as well?
What's your Star Wars story?
My Star Wars story. Okay, so I've been working on this. I've been waiting for someone to ask me. So I actually grew up watching Star Wars. It's pretty similar to your guys' story, where my dad introduced me and my brother to it at a very young age. He is a huge sci-fi nerd. So I grew up on the original trilogy. And of course, when the prequel trilogy started, blew my mind. And I think my favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith. Okay. It's so good. It's like one of those movies that I can watch over and over and over. And I feel like I watch it around Christmas every single year. It's just so good. And you can quote it.
Yeah, I do. It's not like we didn't name our show after something from the movie. So, exactly. we definitely have a certain affiliation for that film. It's, for me, that's, I don't think I've ever been more hyped for a film, ever. Like, in terms of, like, childhood, youth, like, not knowing what was going to happen. It was different, like, I'm a big Harry Potter nerd as well, but like I had read the book by the time that the movie came out, so like I had a general idea of how it was going to go. And you kind of know how the end of this is going to go, but you don't know how they're going to get there. So that was kind of one of the huge anticipation for, like, had just built up for, what was it, 2 or 3 years? So Bog's been fighting for these prequel films in our. He had Attack of the Clones at like number 4 on his list, and I was over here like, what? 5. I was over here like, what in the world?
The original and the sequel trilogy at the top 6 basically. So it's just whatever order it's in. I want to know as well, Crystal, what's your favorite character and what are you wearing? I can see a Baby Yoda. Is it on your?
Yeah, jacket? So I have this Baby Yoda patch, and then I also have a little Grogu. Where is it? Little Grogu pin.
Oh, nice.
My favorite characters, I'll give you 3 because it's so hard to pick one, and they usually fluctuate, but my favorite is Anakin. Like the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. Like he literally is Star Wars. I love him as a character. I love complicated characters. I love Ahsoka, and I love Darth Maul too. Like Darth Maul is such an interesting character. Like he goes back and forth. He's very manipulative. He learns from Palpatine the best. So I don't know. I just like those complicated characters.
I love seeing peak Maul that we got to see in Clone Wars season 7 this year, where he was just, this is clearly like a dude who's finally figured it all out. Like, he's like, okay, I get it. I was just a piece of this puzzle. Now, how am I gonna do more with what I've been given? And it's just one of the, like the way that Dave Filoni described him as the man constantly pushing the boulder up the hill, but there's no end to the hill. He's just constantly pushing the boulder, and it's always going to be pushing back against him. It's just always set up for like a brilliant story, and we'll get to more Maul later.
Yeah, definitely.
But, top 5 moments from Star Wars Rebels. So the way we've kind of worked this is, Crystal, to explain the ground rules of how we do these top 5 moments. If someone happens to have mentioned your moment that's in like your top 3, you say, I have the high ground, and then we will say it later, and then we'll talk about it later. So we'll essentially punt the conversation to the later in the show, so we can talk about it when you have it on the list. So without further ado, Crystal, start us off. What is number 5 on your
number 5
list?
Number 5 for me is the honorable ones. And this is the one with Zeb and Callus, because I like to say that this is the boyfriend episode because I ship them so hard after this episode. Like, this is straight out of a fan fiction. Like, send me the AO3 link to this right now. Like, they are just, the tension between them is so good. I also like that it feels very Star Wars to me. Like, the beginning of the episode, they shoot off in a escape pod, and it's just such a classic Star Wars moment. The explosions in this episode too, they're very reminiscent of the original trilogy, so I really like that. But I just love them together. I'm just like, kiss, it's okay, just kiss. Like, okay. I want it.
And it's wild how this one moment ties back to a scene with no dialogue in the series finale. Like, seeing that Zeb takes Callus back to his home world and shows him that they're still there, and kind of like relieves this like kind of kill, if there was like any like evil of the Hork, any evil left in his heart, it all went away in that moment because it was any ties back to that guilt that he felt. So like seeing their friendship was just so pure, and it was one of the first times you really see Zeb crack as well. It was nice to get a bit deeper with Zeb behind just being the muscle of the group.
Or like the big brother,
right, who can't show emotion. He felt like he can't show emotion because he has to just be so tough. Bogz, I mean, do you ship these guys hard as well?
Yeah, it was a nice episode. Obviously, it didn't make my top 5 or top 10, to be honest, but it was definitely a nice episode. Character building for Agent Callus and for Zeb as well, because like he's like the Thing, Fantastic Four. He just smashes things and that kind of thing, but he developed his softer side, his personality, and it kind of it gives you a further backstory as to so you understand why he takes him back to his home planet and stuff. So yeah, nice moment overall, but it didn't make my list, but yeah, fair enough.
Well, Bogz.
So number 4, do you want to go? Me? Okay.
Yeah, well, number 5 for you.
My 5
has 10, skips to 4. What did they teach you guys over there?
I know, yeah. So my 5 is, you mentioned something in the pre-production meeting about the first few episodes. I actually really like the first few episodes. Okay, yes, definitely gets criticism, but so my journey with Rebels is I didn't watch the first season when it was on. I watched it from the second season onwards, and I remember it was due to premiere, and I think it was maybe Star Wars Celebration. I was seeing some highlights. I thought, okay, this looks kind of cool. So I kind of watched some reviews on them. Must have stumbled across Jedi Council and Collided, that kind of thing. They were reviewing season 1, and I thought, it seems cool. So I put the first episode on, and it was it's a 2-parter. So the first part I felt was okay, but I was really intrigued by the music. The Kevin Kiner score mixed in with John Williams' original kind of trilogy music, and kind of Ezra and Kanan's relationship and all the other rebels and stuff. But it culminates on a part 2, in the part 2 kind of side of the first episode, and it's when Kanan reveals himself as a Jedi. When he kind of they're trying to free the Wookiees, and he steps from behind he's saying some kind of Route 22, and Ezra doesn't understand, and then he's like, "Care to tell me the plan?" And then he goes, "Kid, I'm about to show everyone the plan." and he kind of walks up to the stormtroopers who are obviously firing at him. Agent Callus kind of stops them, and he kind of slowly builds his lightsaber, because at that point you don't know he's a Jedi. Obviously, you see the lightsaber on the ghost, and you see the holocron, but you don't 100% know. You think, oh, is he a bounty hunter? Is he like a smuggler or something? And then he builds it, and obviously you've got the kind of force theme playing as he's doing it, and he's kind of marching towards the stormtroopers, ignites a saber, and then Callus kind of says, "Focus all your attention on the Jedi." And then Ezra's like, "Whoa!" And then they all kind of run off, and he goes, "Time to get out of here!" And then it's just got the original trilogy music flowing, and that touched my heart when I was watching. I was like, "What?" Like, I was not expecting it. I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know what it was about, and it was just a surprise moment at the end of that first episode. Thinking, "Okay, I'm in," because the first it was a little bit childish, but it was fun. And then I saw that moment. I was like, "Okay, we're doing proper Jedi." Master apprentice stuff. I kind of saw it all coming in the culmination of the first episode, and I love that moment. I watched it back 100 times, just the score and how Kanan behaves and stuff like that. So just it's a subtle thing, but it hooked me into the series. So that's my number 5.
That's why he's my favorite Jedi. That's why he's the most important one. He's the most important one in terms of setting the tone for what a true Jedi Knight is all about. He saw the flaws, he saw the good, he saw the bad, and he walks both lines. I mean, that guy goes on the ultimate adventure, and for it all to start right there is, I would love to see like a comic of his perspective of the whole event rather than Ezra's, just to see like him mentally coming to grips with like, okay, this is the moment I ignite my lightsaber. Because it seems like he probably hasn't been doing a lot of it. I mean, if you read A New Dawn, it's kind of a bit, he does it. He lights it a few times, but the whole part of it is him hiding. Kind of reminds me of my boy Cal Kestis from, oh my gosh, Fallen Order. Yeah, when I played it the other day. Just busted it out, switched the lightsaber around, just went around, sliced some stuff up. Crystal, what were your thoughts on this moment when you first saw it? You're like, were you in?
Yeah, I feel like I was in. I really liked the first few episodes too, just because for me they felt really fun. The stakes weren't very high. We were kind of learning about these characters, and it was just really fun.
Yeah, to me it was.
I was going to say, we also see where we are in the world at the time with the Empire
True.
on top. This is like 5 years before New Hope. So you see them in the Empire on Lothal, and how they are and how secretly everyone acts. And you can see the start of the rebellion and all that. So, yeah, I loved it.
We'll move over to my top 5, which I have Thrawn interrogating Hera. One of my favorite moments in the entire show. Really, to me, sets the tone for like, yes, this is Thrawn from Heir to the Empire. We have just plucked him from somewhere else, and we have placed him here in our timeline to make it work. And boy, was I happy. This moment to me is like, so as someone who grew up reading those books, it was just to me like, thank you, Dave Filoni, for doing this. His quote of, "War, it's all you've ever known, isn't it? You were so young when you survived the Clone War. No wonder you're as equipped in spirit to fight as well as you do. War is in your blood. I studied the art of war, worked to perfect it, but you were forged by it." And talking to Hera in that moment, you're just like, what? And then it also builds Hera up as well, because some of my favorite moments are with her and her dad, and like that whole relationship of like how she became the like one of my like arguably my top 3 favorite Star Wars characters of all time. She's just so great. And in this moment is her saying like, "Nah, man, like we're coming for you, like you and your whole system. Like we are, even if you take me out right here, it doesn't matter. More of us are gonna come. They're gonna come save me, or they're gonna come take you out. One of those is gonna happen." And it's just so powerful, just for like her to stand up to somebody as like this character created for this show, standing up to this Titan that's been around for 25 years at this point when this episode gets released. I mean, Bogz, what was it like seeing like Thrawn, like the Thrawn, really go full into like what drives him in this moment?
You pretty much see his superpower, which is this Sherlock Holmes style investigative kind of detective way of collecting art, doing his research, being smarter than everyone else, and you kind of see it unfold in their moments with Hera, talking about the issues with her father and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely just good to see his overall kind of arsenal and skill set, basically, as why he's such a villain and why he's so beloved. So yeah, definitely a good moment. And seeing Hera, how dedicated she is for the cause, for the rebellion and stuff like that. So yes, definitely a good pick. What do you think, Crystal?
I love that you had a quote from him that was really good, but I love seeing how calculated he is, because we don't have many villains like that. Like, we have Maul, who's very intelligent as well, but Thrawn is like a different kind of smart. Like, he is 3 steps ahead of you. He is getting under your skin because he knows what kind of reaction he's going to get, or he's testing you to see how accurate he is. And I love that he studies the culture, the art of the planet he's trying to take over, or the people he's trying to move underneath of. He's such a good character. Very evil.
And that's his other quote. The quote, "To defeat an enemy, you must know them, not simply their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, and art." So the fact that he was going around literally collecting some of Sabine's artwork off of the planets that they had been on before to study, like, their familiar aspect. Like, he knew they were a unit before they even got to him. Like, he knew why he had to take his time, because this was a group that was not just doing something for money or for greed. They were doing it for a cause, and he knew that. And it's just so nice to see, him, just this story, take the time to, like, flesh out a villain character, because how often are the villains on shows premiered on Disney XD? Very rarely is the villain fleshed out and is actually given, some form of basis, if it's not, Vader or Maul, which has this, intense backstory. But Crystal, what is your number 4?
So number 4, I have a Jedi Knight, and I'm sure this is on one of your guys's. I put it a little bit lower, but this episode I really like, because it's towards the end of the whole show, so the stakes are really high. At this point, Hera is kidnapped. So everyone's going to go get her. And this is where we see Kanan really become, I think, a Jedi Master. I think at this point, we really see him understand, like, okay, like, this is the future. I need to let go of my emotions. I need to let go of my connection. And his sacrifice. It makes his sacrifice so much harder, because I think he knows going into it. In the beginning of the episode, we see him kind of have, like, a Force vision, and you can hear what's going to happen, and it's just so tragic. And I love, like, a good hero's death,
How nice of you. Yes. The like, in this episode, it has the same music as with Luke in Return of the Jedi, when he's kind of a full Jedi Knight, then like battling on the sail barge in Return of the Jedi, that the same theme. You hear the same themes in this episode with Kanan, because it's to establish now he's a full-blown Jedi. Now he's past the stage of am I a Jedi or am I not? I'm knighted now. Now he's in his prime, basically, in this moment, in these moments, and he's and obviously the vision that he has is now going to a spiritual moment. Like, he knows that he may have to, or he envisions he may have to, lay his life down, that kind of thing. Because we knew it as the audience, we knew that obviously he's probably going to die this series, maybe this episode, we kind of knew that before going in. So it was, some big moments going in, and how it happened. Obviously, there's some of the best visuals in the series. Seeing Hera, and Ezra's face, and the explosion and the choices that he does and things like that. Yeah. So it was a great moment, great pick. I didn't have it on my list because I knew one of you two would have it. It could easily be number 1. They're one of the moments that that I've kind of, not picked away, because they're some of the best moments, full stop. So in all of Star Wars, not just in Rebels. So, Colin, do you have it on your list?
No, I didn't, because it kind of reminded me too much of the moment I had just picked, because Hera also has an interrogation scene with Thrawn in this episode as well. Yeah. But for me, this episode was extremely important in terms of, like, getting the season to where it's going to end, because this season and Clone Wars, the final season, both started a bit like, okay, we know that you are excited for what's going to end this show, but we got to have, 10 episodes, and we only got like a 6-episode arc, so we got to kind of get you to where we're going. And once we got to this episode, it's full steam ahead for the rest of the season. And it's, oh man, just seeing Kanan fully take on, like, just, that's why he's the bomb, man. He is the bomb. Kanan's dope. And everything that he's doing in this really just solidifies why he gets it. He gets, like this is something that, like, a Jedi Knight 400 years ago would have done. Would have totally, in the moment, sacrificed for the cause. Whatever the cause was, laid down on the line. This is, like, exactly what his master would have done. Like, this is everything. All the lessons culminate into this one moment. So it just has to be, like, this... It's so inspirational to Ezra. Like, this show just keeps hitting. Like, this show is just like, hey, you want to see it again? Oh no, Bogz, what happened? I guess they might have cut the internet or something. But actually, we can pause. Hold on, I can actually because I can edit this episode. I can pause and say 21. Got it. Oh, poor Bogz.
I know. I was worried that my internet would cut out as well. I'm going to take a photo of us while we're doing this. I'll, like, edit him in, for content.
I was about to say, I don't have my light on.
You didn't have this on your list. I was, like, so sure that someone else would have it.
Well, that's why. I was sure somebody else was going to have it. That was kind of what I was going for, was, like, hopefully the list of things that... Because every single time I had something for the last list that we did, Bogz was like, nope, I have it higher. And I was like, damn, like every single one of them. I was like, this is getting annoying.
I bet our number ones are all the same.
I don't know. Maybe.
Now I'm not sure.
Now I'm not sure. Yeah, this could go either way.
It could go either way.
His internet lost connection.
Oh no.
He's trying to get back. He's fine. This, like, never happens. This is weird. Like,
yeah. It's all good.
Because, like, he's like just gotten off work, so, but then we host another show in like 5.5 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, so that he's gotta, like, hopefully this doesn't happen later.
Oh my god.
We have 3. Okay, here he is.
What the hell happened there?
I look, man. I keep getting worried. Like, every single time the internet cuts out, I'm like, oh geez.
That's like never happened before. Yeah, it just like did a really weird reset. So sorry about that. But yeah,
no, you're good. No. I just paused it because I can edit it, so I can just edit it out.
Sure. So you were, I heard you were saying, I forgot.
I had one more thing to add to this before we move on. Sure. I also really love that this is the moment that Hera and Kanan say that they love each other, and then he dies. Like, what? Out of all the moments, 2 idiots in love.
Because they were building up to that the whole season. Oh, well, the whole series, right? You kind of knew that was, and then he could have said it earlier, that kind of thing. So yeah, the tragedy of Kanan Jarrus. Yeah,
it really is the tragedy.
Definitely. It's too much. It's too much feels. Bogz, what's your number 4?
My number 4, sir, is Siege of Lothal episode. It is the scene where Vader fights Ezra and Kanan.
Okay, I have the high ground on that one.
I don't mind that, sir. I do not mind that. That's a good shout. So, okay, that's my number 4. So your number 4, Colin.
Twin Sons, Maul versus Obi-Wan. One of my favorite moments in all of Star Wars.
Oh, well, we have the high ground, obviously.
Okay. That's fine. So then, Crystal, on to your number 3.
My number 3 is actually Twin Sons. So
okay, so that's perfect. Let's roll it.
Okay, so
Let's-
I guess I'll start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, so Twin Sons, it's not like the most action-packed episode. You know, it's kind of like this really slow burn, which I love. Also, I love anything with Maul in it, and this is just such a good resolution to Maul's arc and Obi-Wan coming full circle from Phantom Menace. Also, it's 3 strikes. He knocks him down in 3 strikes. Like, what? I also really like that it feels more like an old school samurai kind of fight, you know, like it's this very calculated, we're gonna like stand off and then we're gonna fight. I really loved that. Also, this is just another example of Ezra not listening to anyone and then realizes that he's made a mistake. And I'm like, boy, like, when are you gonna learn this lesson? Like, Maul's using you. I don't know why you're even listening to this voice that sounds like Maul. Like, but yeah, it was a really good episode.
Yeah, this to me is, as a kid who like watched the Phantom Menace a lot, to see the culmination of Maul in this moment with Obi-Wan and for it to end with them coming together. You're like, I feel deprived we didn't see it on film. Like it's just like such a heavy moment, and the fight is so indicative of Vader and Obi-Wan in A New Hope. It's very standoff. It's like, I can cut you down. It's like, yeah, I can cut you down too. It's like, okay, well, let's see who's gonna make the first move. And for me, the feeling from Obi-Wan in the moment of like, I can finally put this to rest, because like, you know, like, this is, you never forget a grudge, or, you know, the one that got away, and this was the one that got away for, and this is justice for Obi-Wan, because I mean, killed Satine right in front of him. Like, really killed her and the love of his life. Yeah, right in front of him.
So many.
Oh, and this just brings him a sense of clarity, a sense of, you know, peace and purpose, and it's just nice. It's just heartfelt to me. It's just it yeah, like you said, it reminds you of this old samurai movies. I mean, it's Kurosawa to a T. Like, I mean, what we talk, like, it's just too good. It's too good. Bogz, like, you probably watched this live, right? And so this was you were probably like losing your shit, and then it was like, coming up next on Disney XD.
So yeah, again, my journey is different to you guys because being in the UK. So the Rebels episodes drop like in the middle of the night for me. So I have to watch it kind of in the morning, and obviously I work, right? So I work pretty much 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So I remember clearly I had to watch this episode on my lunch break at work. So I remember going to my cafeteria on my phone, you know, like because obviously I didn't have Disney, you know, XD on my phone, so it was like a pirate copy. And I'm watching it, and people, you know, kind of casually sitting next to me as you do on your lunch break, and I've got my headphones in. Everyone's like, "Oh, why are you being so quiet? What are you watching?" And I remember someone grabbing a pair of headphones and listening to it as I'm watching it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, can you just go away?" Like, I didn't say it, but you know, I'm like, you know, guys, in fact, I did. After like 5 minutes, I was like, "Guys, I just need to watch this. Can you just give me?" I'm sorry, I know I'm being rude, but they're like, "What?" You know, they're like confused. I've never behaved like this before. I'm like, "Guys, this is really important." And they can see I'm watching like an animation thing, and they're like, "I'm like, oh, no, I'll explain later. Just let me watch it." And And I remember they were upset with me when I sat back on my desk. They were like, "Why are you behaving like that?" I'm like, "I know, it's just something I needed to watch." But yeah, that was fun. But yeah, my actually number one moment isn't the fight scene. So I'll come to the number one moment. It is this episode, but it isn't the fight scene. But of course, this fight scene is absolutely epic. Yes, pure samurai, pure Kurosawa, and yeah, reflection of the fight scene in A New Hope. Because I was worried. I was thinking, oh, okay, how good is Obi-Wan going to be? Because it's literally like less than a year before that. You know, that fight scene with Vader, how they're going to do Obi-Wan, and not just the fight scene, that the whole how he looks, the dialogue that he uses. You know, he tells Ezra, "You're not supposed to be here." I love that. Like, I love how he knows who he is, and that's not his path. And to what you're saying, Crystal, that Ezra just continuously not listening to people and showing his kind of immaturity basically lands him in that spot where he's in over his head against Maul and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan kind of sends him away. You're worried for Obi-Wan, but how he kind of handles Maul with ease, in effect, just to show that how he's learned so much and how, if anything, Maul has gone backwards, kind of thing. So yeah, it just shows his character progression, and and then he kind of talks about the chosen one afterwards. Just adds so much mythology to it, and the whole fire thing in the middle. Loved it, loved it. I can go on for ages about this, but yeah, one of the best moments in all of Star Wars. People thought it was a little bit short at the time, the actual fight, but I loved it because I was worried that it would go on for too long. Like maybe it would show, like I said, Obi-Wan maybe too athletic and stuff like that. So yeah, they've done it just right, and he killed him for the second time in effect. So yeah, great pick.
Yeah, it's very emotional.
So that was your 3, Crystal, is that right?
Yes, that was my number 3.
Okay, so my 3.
Yes.
So the episode is called Shroud of Darkness. Okay,
Yes.
it is with it's basically when Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka go to the Jedi Temple on Lothal. Okay, in this episode, Ezra learns, he kind of physically sees and speaks to Yoda in this episode, and he also Kanan.
It's my number 3.
There you go. We've got good taste. And then Ahsoka also has kind of a Force vision, and she hears Anakin, and that's where kind of it's revealed to her that Anakin is Vader, that kind of thing. And in the actual number 3 is the whole kind of dojo scene with Kanan against the the temple guards, the Inquisitor, and him being knighted. I just love the whole kind of dialogue and the kind of choices that Kanan has to do. He tries to defend Ezra. They're trying to kill him. There's too much darkness in him. And then he kind of stops and accepts that he has to leave him to a certain extent, maybe proceeding to his death. Maybe he acknowledges in some way here that, okay, at some point he has to leave Ezra because he's on his own journey. So you can do all you can, like every master and apprentice does, kind of thing. And then when he knights him, by the will of the council, by the way of the Force, Kanan Jarrah, like finally he's a Jedi Knight. Something that he delayed, that was delayed through Order 66 in his own character thing. So I love that. Came back around and gave him the kind of knighthood that he kind of needed to help to progress him further with Ezra. And then the end, just summarizing, obviously Vader appears at the end of this. So in this episode, you've had not only this great stuff in the Jedi Temple, you've had James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. You've had Matt Lanter as, here in Ahsoka, in Ahsoka's Force vision. You hear obviously Anakin and then transition to Vader. And you've had Frank Oz talking to Ezra. And then Frank Oz, you see the Yoda kind of wave to Ahsoka down the kind of tunnel as the temple's collapsing as well. So I love this scene. There's just so much Force and Jedi stuff in it. And then Vader kind of comes and steals the show at the end. So yeah, one of my favorite episodes, my number 3.
Yeah, for me, like boiling down to the Yoda stuff specifically, I mean, Yoda ties all these movies together as much as R2-D2. He's somehow found a way to impact every single main Jedi in a story that we've come to know. And the quote that sticks out to me is, "A challenge, lifelong it is, not to bend fear into anger." And boy, that would be a great tattoo. Like that is just so good. That is so good. Like that is some stuff that you have to, like, not to bend fear into anger. That is just so Ezra to a T, because he is afraid of losing his new family. That's his deepest fear. It's been his deepest fear the entire time that he's been on this journey. Is he's just happy to have a new family. And I mean, eventually gets down to the end bits of him possibly being able to see his parents again in the temple with the Emperor. And that is him resisting and not caving into himself. And so to see it all start here, because it's an interesting relationship. It's why Ezra gravitates so much to Ahsoka, to Maul, and to Yoda here in this moment, is because, like, you never forget your second teachers, like, or your parents. If your parents tell you something, probably aren't listening. But if somebody else tells you the same thing that your parents said, then it will probably stick. And it's just that childish mentality of being, a bit pushbackish naturally. So to see Ezra finally get all this stuff from the man himself, from Yoda, to get all these life lessons that he's given to everybody, it kind of elevates Ezra in this moment. It raises him to, like, he's he's kind of where we meet Kanan mentally at the beginning of the show, where he's got all these values, but now he has to figure out what his purpose is. So now him being set on the track to figure it all out, just awesome. Love it. Crystal, what you got for this? I mean, this is just to be like some quintessential Star Wars.
Yeah, so I loved seeing Yoda in this episode. I think that was my thing that I remember most about it. And I remember at the end, I'm like, is Ahsoka going to see Yoda? Is Ahsoka going to see Yoda? Like, because it's
he waves to her, and they're like,
yeah. And I'm like, I wish that they had a moment together, but you know, we don't get that. But I was just like, I remember just being really emotional during this one because it's Yoda. Like, how can you not be? And I think another thing I remember is how the Grand Inquisitor was one of the guards, which I thought was really cool because that just shows like who he was before, or you know how he went to the dark side and now he's kind of back on the light side, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it showed his fall to the, like you said, like obviously to be captured by Vader, you know, as an Inquisitor and stuff. But isn't it funny that I said the name of the episode and you knew what happens in that episode, Crystal? Like, this,
well, I was like last night, I was like going through and like trying to figure out what I was going to talk about.
I think this is one of the only series where people just know. Like, if I say Twin Sons, like everybody knows what happens in that. Or if I say Twilight the Apprentice, people know. Like the only other series for me where I know the episode names is Lost. Like,
I was about to say Lost. I was just about to say Lost.
Yeah, like the 5 best episodes you just know the names of. They're like iconic things, and that I love how that.
Let's go. We got the Hatch. We got
the Constant.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can keep going.
But yeah. Anyway, back to Star Wars. So what are we on? So that was my 3, right? So your 3, Colin.
Well, that was my 3. So now we can move over to Crystal's 2.
Yes.
Okay, so number 2 for me is The World Between Worlds. Again, I don't think this is the most action-packed episode, but there's so many things that happen in this that are so important to the story, and especially now that we have the Ahsoka show coming. I love that we see Palpatine get into the World Between Worlds, and it just, for me, it was one of the times where we really see that Palpatine is this really menacing evil figure, and he is about to grab Ahsoka and grab Ezra. I also really like how we see Ezra struggle with wanting to pull Kanan out of the moment that he saves them, and it's this moment where he needs to let go and learn things happen for a reason. You can't pull Kanan out of this explosion because essentially like they'll die. So I like that really intense moment between them. Also, the World Between Worlds just looks really cool.
Yeah, for me, that it just blows up the entire like perspective of Star Wars. Like, I know there's a big facet of the internet when they watched it. It was like, oh, time travel, and it's like, well, it's time travel, but with insane consequences. And Dave Filoni did this. I assume he definitely talked to George Lucas before he did this and was like, do you mind if I put this in your world? Because it could kind of break things at certain points. Like, can you guys imagine if we have Rosario Dawson standing in the World Between Worlds? Like, I will lose my mind. People will be like, what the hell is going on here? They'll be calling me like, what did I just watch? I'll be like, I've go watch this cartoon. Like, it's so interesting that the consequences of this world of this time travel scenario are what they are, and the story just happens to play to it with Vader, and they're in Twilight of the Apprentice, and it just to all kind of the way it's so seamlessly woven into like, well, yeah, we didn't know what happened to her, and then whoop, well, here she is, we got her. Bogz, like, this is some of the best stuff that Star Wars has ever done. I mean, it's got Ezra on a classic, like, we gotta find this temple. How many times on Rebels have it been like, we gotta find this temple? And this is the coolest one yet, Indy.
Yeah, I love the whole temple stuff because we don't get enough of it in kind of live action stuff. So I kind of love that, getting that extra kind of temple use. But yeah, I can't believe they've done it at the time. I was just amazed with they've introduced the time. If you'd have told me before, or a lot of the rumors before was about the whole time travel stuff, and I wasn't too happy that they were making that choice. But the way that they've done it, I loved it. I'm particularly hearing, when he first walks in, you hear like the original trilogy characters, You can hear the sequel trilogy characters, prequel trilogy characters, Rebels characters, all in this. It just sounds so awesome, and just the kind of mythology and lore they built around it, and pulling Ahsoka out of that scene. You're going through space and time to pull a character out in another realm, and then of course Palpatine. And hearing Palpatine say Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano, like it's very surreal.
Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, exactly. And then and to be honest, I was more emotional about that moment trying to pull out Kanan than Kanan's actual death scene, because I kind of saw that come in, in that series. So watching that, thinking he's just there, like he's literally 1 meter away, pull him out. Just, yes, I understand there's consequences if you do that, but it's worth the consequence. Just do it. And obviously he doesn't, which is the right choice, of course. But yes, the epic moments that could have easily been number 1 on my list, but I was hoping someone had it on. So yeah, great pick. And yeah, it's one of the best moments in all Star Wars. And a lot of people don't like this stuff in terms of the time travel element, but the way Filoni done it is nothing but applaud for me, and I absolutely love it.
Well, Bogz, you're number 2.
Yes,
your Attack of the Clones.
My number 2, sir, is Twilight of the Apprentice, and it is the moment where Ahsoka cuts Vader's mask, and you obviously see, Anakin. You hear Anakin as well, the Atlanta voice, mixed with James Earl Jones, and that whole thing leading up to. I mean, there's so many. I was saying to you guys before we start recording this, the top 5 could have been Twilight of the Apprentice moments. But obviously, some of the best parts are like the scene with, Ahsoka, Maul, and Kanan against the Inquisitors, seeing like a red, white, and blue lightsaber against the Inquisitors was very surreal. And then leading up to the kind of I don't know what, the temple basically, and then Vader coming down on the TIE fighter, and then you just know Ezra's in trouble, and luckily Ahsoka's there, and then he kind of beats Ahsoka away, and then she comes back like just as about is Kanan's trying to pull Ezra away, and Vader's pulling him with the holocron, and then Ahsoka kind of comes back, and then he tells her, when they fight, I won't leave you again. Like, yeah, completely surreal moment for that to happen. And she actually, like that's the most damage Vader's took, I think, in a kind of 1-to-1 fight. So yeah, very surreal seeing it happen at the time. Epic moment, and yeah, I just loved it. And did you guys have this on any of your lists? Okay.
I mean, I didn't do it because I knew everybody else would.
I'm just wondering if anyone
I
did.
thought that we were all going to have this one as their number 1. I was like, there's no way that this is not going to be their number 1.
It should be really, but yeah, go ahead, Crystal, go ahead.
I just didn't want to cut you off because what you're saying, like I love this episode so much. It's my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many things that happen in this episode. Like at the start of part 2, we see Maul, of course, he lights his lightsaber, and then we see Ahsoka and Kanan team up with him. So it's just this kind of really crazy moment. And I also love Maul and Ahsoka because this is their first time seeing each other since the Siege of Mandalore. So their relationship is really complicated as well. And Maul is the one that knew that Anakin was going to be Palpatine's new apprentice, and so there's just so many things happening in that moment, and the fact that Ahsoka defends him from getting cut down from the Inquisitors is really crazy. Also, visually, this episode is beautiful. Like, the explosions are really cool, the lightsaber fights are cool, and of course, getting to Ahsoka versus Vader, I literally cried. It was just so emotional. It was so emotional because I think before this, we see Ahsoka kind of she doesn't want to face the fact that it's Anakin, like she doesn't want to admit it. And I think in this moment, she really is just like, this is my master. Like, this is my older brother. Like, this is my family. And she realizes she can't do anything about it. And I think that's when she says, I'm not a Jedi. So that way she can end this or like cut him down. Of course it doesn't happen, but their lightsaber fight is so good. Yeah. It's one of my favorites in probably all of Star Wars. And I think just the emotional impact of it too. I was like,
it's amazing. And also, I forgot to mention Maul's absolute cheap shot against Kanan.
Oh my God.
Him. Yeah. So I rewatched it for this, and I thought Ahsoka is right next to Kanan. I'm sure she could have blocked it. Like obviously, I'm not saying she did it on purpose, but she was right there. Like she's right there. Kanan was like turning, And as he's turning, you know, Maul's gone for him. And Ahsoka's just there, like mouth open, just watching it happen. Like she was just there. She could have helped, but anyway, too late.
Something else about this episode too is it felt very Empire Strikes Back to me. Like the stakes are so high. It is a devastating loss for all of them because of Ezra's mistakes or the way that he followed Maul and didn't listen to his master. It got his master blind. Ahsoka is presumably dead. And it was all for this holocron. He did it all for a holocron, and he pretty much lost everything. And it just feels so heavy for it to end there and then. Very Empire Strikes Back for me.
Even the actual end of the episode is very Empire Strikes Back. It's showing the clips of, you know, like Kanan, of Ezra, of Ahsoka, just of everyone. Well, Ahsoka in the kind of tunnel, and obviously Vader limping out of the thing. Very Empire Strikes Back. You're right. And yeah, I can't get that vision of Vader coming down off that TIE fighter out of my head, and with Ezra just there looking up, thinking, no idea what to do here. So completely hopeless. So yeah, what do you think, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of plays into my number 2, which I knew none of y'all were gonna have, but it sets the stakes for where we find Kanan, and to me, it is the Empire Strikes Back of the show. It truly is like everyone loses, and that has to happen in a show where you have to feel lost, and for this to feel like it, like. We knew it wasn't going to be the end of Ahsoka, but we didn't know how she was going to come back. She was out of the story. It just felt like we didn't know. Like that could have been, you know, her stepping into the Jedi afterlife, or, you know, her becoming one with the Force. And it was just, it's just so everything y'all said. But to me, yeah, Bogz, the image is Vader coming down on the TIE fighter. That's it. That's the show. That's the fear that he creates. That's the situation that he makes everyone feel like it's aura. It's his presence. He sucks all the life out of the room. And Ezra says, it feels cold. He said, I feel cold. Like when they first meet him.
Oh, I meant to say that. Damn, yeah. When Kanan stops in his tracks and Ezra's like, do you feel that? And that, yes, it's the cold.
And it's cold. And it's nuts. And it sets Kanan down this path, which is, to my number 2, Kanan training with Bendu. Kanan training with Bendu is like where I find my peace in this show. This is where Aang goes and talks to the lion turtle island in Avatar. Like
you would know if you watched.
Yeah, Bogz, you didn't get to season 3, so season 3, and they're even kind of shaped the same, which is kind of dope. They're kind of like these big turtle-looking dudes. And he's voiced by the great Colin Baker, one of my favorite doctors from Doctor Who. And for me, like he's just so. It's different. You're not getting something from a Sith holocron. You're not getting something. God, I got something stuck in my throat. You know, I got something. Like he's not like good or bad. He just is, and that is something that. Yeah, I am the middle, and like that's where Kanan needs to be, and that's where all of them need to eventually be to find peace, to find stability in their lives. And Kanan finds it in the darkest of times, literally stripping him of his sight, teaching him how to see again. I'm getting like Matt Murdock vibes here. This is like when Daredevil's still out. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to go up in here and whoop all these people all blind and stuff with the mask on and everything. And it's just so like pure that Kanan just finds the balance that so many Jedi we've watched struggle to find the balance, and actually seeing somebody truly become one with both sides, knowing when to do this, knowing when to do that, the good, the bad, what is right. He kind of figures it all out. And I would, you know, if I was Rey or somebody, I'd be taking notes. Like I'd be like, this is where I need to take the future of the, you know, the future of the Order is what this guy was doing. Because like this is the way for me, for lack of a better term. I mean, Bogz, is this like, I know it's one in your top 5, but like, what were your impressions of Bendu when you first saw him?
Oh man, I loved it. Like, just thinking as you're talking with Bendu, and World Between Worlds. Like Filoni is just, he's too sick, man. He's just too like everything, like all this kind of mystical stuff elements. Like I love it. Like the Jedi Temple stuff. Yes, of course I love the Bendu and giving him advice. To be honest, I did have a Bendu moment on my list. I probably as number 6 is not that moment though. It's when kind of the Bendu's death scene with Thrawn, him telling, you'll be, can you not see it, being held like in a cold embrace, can you not see your death, that kind of thing. And I think Thrawn says it early in the episode, what is this kind of Jedi sorcery or something? So yeah, I loved all that. Bendu's just an amazing character. I wish he was kind of in some iteration or comes back somehow. But yeah, it's him learning these additional skills, learning how to be a master via Bendu, learning how to see, that kind of stuff, learning these additional skills. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So great pick, Colin. So yeah, what do you think of the Bendu then, Crystal?
I think that's a really good pick. That was one of the ones I was kind of playing with of putting in my top 5 because it is a very iconic character, and I think what Kanan learns when he is training with him is really important too. The fact that Kanan had to go blind to learn these things, though, or to become the Jedi that he would become, I guess. I think he comes to terms with that and is like, all right, well, if I'm going to see, I'm going to use the Force. And yeah, I like that the Bendu is neither good or bad. And he kind of has to submit to this. So I thought that was really interesting.
Definitely. So I think we're at number 1 now, right?
Yeah, which I think we've covered. Crystal,
me,
then we do your number 1.
Oh,
so now
okay.
It was the Twilight.
Okay,
Twilight Apprentice part 2.
Okay, good. So my number 1, I just want to give honorable mention to that Bendu scene with Thrawn. Another honorable mention is, I think it's the last episode. I'm just checking. No, second to last episode, called A Fool's Hope, with when I think Ezra runs into a kind of a cave, and then some Imperials are chasing him, and he ignites his green lightsaber, and you see the
wolves.
Yeah, that's that scene. That whole episode, the music is unreal. Kevin Kiner, and that kind of the last 2, 3, 4 episodes after kind of Jedi Knight is you see Ezra come into his own as a Jedi, and the music coincides with that because the music is reflective of that of like I said, Return of the Jedi and Empire and stuff, like Luke's journey, like Ezra's becoming into a Jedi Knight, basically. So I did love all that stuff. But my number 1 is a scene in Twin Sons. And after the fight scene, after Ezra gets back when he's all dusty, and then, he tells Kanan and Hera, oh, we won't see any more of Maul. And they kind of puts his arm around him and walks him, into the shuttle or whatever. And then you think the episode's finished. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And it cuts back to Tatooine. And then you see Obi-Wan, kind of trotting along. And you're like, oh, what's going on here? And then you just hear, Luke. And then you just see you see him running. I was like, what? Like, I was in, like, frozen, like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't know if he was going to go down and speak to him, or it was a complete and utter shock for me. Like, I could not believe they had that scene, and like I was zero expecting it. And then everyone just stroking his chin afterwards, like he does obviously in the original movie. But that was the best scene I've seen in all of Rebels. I was completely shocked. I'm not gonna lie, I've cried at that scene. Like, it was a complete shock seeing little Luke running across the same, obviously, dialogue that Aunt Beru uses, and the same music, and then it kind of fades into the Force theme, and then it finishes. I was just it's just a subtle scene, that I couldn't believe that they'd done. Made me emotional. I could have picked Twilight the Apprentice, Jedi Knight, whatever, but just that scene, I was so surprised and happy that they'd done that, because Luke's my favorite character, not just in Star Wars of all time, and I was zero expecting it. Loved it so much. So yeah, that was my number 1. Do you remember that scene, Crystal?
Oh, yeah. And I think what you were saying about being shocked at that scene is a really good point, because it is very unexpected. I don't think any of us expected to see a young Luke Skywalker. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. It definitely was one of those moments where you're like, it's all coming together.
Exactly. And the music just kills it.
So good.
Colin?
Do you like Luke Skywalker or something? I can't tell in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you might name your kid Luke. I'd be really shocked. You'd be like,
look, I'll give you a hint. A lot of my passwords is Skywalker. If you know my emails, like, you can get into a lot of my accounts with that. Yeah. So.
Oh boy. But yeah, obviously, like you see the twin sons. It's pretty well done too. It doesn't look really digital. It looks like they kind of took the actual footage and doctored it up a bit to match a bit more. And I mean, it's seeing the farm, just seeing the farm and seeing, that, I mean, that's just so much history from obviously episode 4, then to end episode 2, right? And seeing it there, and it's just like, oh, we're coming up on this is real. Like, we're kind of like coming up on this stuff. And I can imagine what it would be like if you're like 6 or 7 years old and you're watching this show, and then like your dad walks in, he's like, what are you watching? Is that like, it kind of catches the attention. But I'm sure like this scene, and then what I'm about to discuss, are really what got people into this show, is like the possibilities of bringing in so many different the aspects of Star Wars that initially got people hooked onto Star Wars, which is obviously the first movie. So the closer and closer we get to episode 4, the more fun we can have with it, which I always had some secret wants that we might see, like the finale, or like a special like 5 minutes of like the perspective of the crew from Rogue One, because Ghost is there. So, like, it's got to be there, so you got to see, like, what was Hera doing during that? What was her mission during that? The closer and closer you get to 4, the more and more, like, it feels real, right?
That was a big rumor, wasn't it? As season 4 was finishing,
yeah.
We thought it was going to culminate in the events of Rogue One, basically, because that came out just before. So, yeah, that was a big, everyone was hoping for that. Basically.
Would have been really something interesting, but, man. My number one is just it is Vader. Vader coming in, his first appearance is one of, like, it goes. I mean, I already said the quote. Ezra looking over at Kanan and being like, "Bro, I'm chilly. Like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark." Moment.
Oh, so your Siege of Lothal is number 1.
Oh yeah, Siege of Lothal, number 1. Like, it is. Yeah. Like, it is fear, like, to a T. It is the Vader that you hear about and read about in books. One of my favorite moments from any Star Wars book is in the Lords of the Sith book, and it's Vader speaking, sort of an inner monologue of him describing like how he is changing to rely on the machine and letting for stuff he doesn't need to do, and then focusing more of his mind on the Force and letting the machine do what it can do, and then so he's more powerful. And that just the extra energy is felt by the kid, by Ezra, by Kanan. Like, oh man, you can just feel it in their bones that like they are shook to a T, and you can look at them and just feel ultimate fear. And that came to be in Fallen Order, where the end of that game, Vader is there. Like, Vader is straight up the end battle, and it's him just chasing you, and it's that fear that Vader puts into literally anyone. There is very few people pretty sure Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano are the only 2 people who have looked Vader in the face mask and been like, bet, let's scrap. Like, let's go right now. Like, we can fight. Everyone else is like, I'm out of here. This dude is terrifying. We are running. There's nothing I can do. This dude is just too much. And that presence was just something I had only read about. And really, you don't really see until Rogue One, obviously, in a film. But to me, this came out before that, so this was the first time you really saw it in media, where you were like, man, you do not want to mess with this guy. This guy is no joke. He's the ultimate baddie. He's the ultimate hero, but he's the ultimate baddie, and it's just quintessential Vader. It's him to his essence. It's why people fear him, and it's shown in these 2 episodes. And we get the original music, all the original cues in Siege of Lothal. The 2-episode little movie thing was just too good. Crystal, were you as scared as Ezra was when Vader first showed up?
Oh, absolutely. That is one thing that I really like that they did with Rebels, is they made Darth Vader scary, because I feel like as time has passed, he's become like this cultural icon. Everyone knows who Darth Vader is. He's one of the most well-known villains out there. And I think that Rebels did such a good job at reestablishing him as the big bad in the galaxy. But yeah, like, they did a really good job with this. I'm trying not to repeat everything you just said. But something else about this episode was it just felt very Star Wars to me, like their whole mission and then running into Vader at the very end. Like you're just like, wait, Vader's here? Like so soon? But yeah, I have to agree with everything you said.
It's too much. It's overwhelming. Like the energy in that episode is overwhelming, and it's the feelings that you feel at the end of Star Wars: A New Hope are attempted to be replicated series after series after series, like that feeling. And then the feeling of loss is the end of A New Hope. How many times have shows, movies, whatever, tried to make you feel that feeling? And then how hard is it to land the ship like they do in Return of the Jedi? Like, it's extremely hard to tell a 3-part story. And this doing it at the beginning of season 2, really setting the tone for what this season's going to be about, is, of course, they introduce Vader, and you're like, but we gotta know Ahsoka's out there, right? And then it just kind of starts you going down this road of, it's one of the first times that these shows, I mean, this is the second show in the Filoniverse, it opens up the door for the world to expand. And then eventually, the end of this season, we get, this is the season we get Leia as well. So it really just starts to, this is where Filoni's like, bet, you guys want to let me play? I mean, let me play. Bogz, I mean, this is just Dave Filoni busting out the toys again. He just didn't have his best friend Jon Favreau yet.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the end of the season you get Leia. In the end of this episode, you get Lando as well. So obviously, like I said, you get Vader, you get Tarkin, you get Lando, you get Leia, you get Palpatine, you get Maul. I mean, there's so much like finesse on this series. But yeah, just on this episode, like absolutely, this could have been my number one. Easy. Like there's so much kind of just, again, epic moments where, yes, when Vader, when they realize he's there, and then do you feel the cold and that kind of stuff. And then when they start fighting, if the actual fight, Vader just kind of pushes Ezra away. Like, he can't even get near him. He just kind of force holds him against walls and dismisses him. And Kanan kind of actually hold his own a little bit, like enough to survive anyway. And then when they kind of both force push him, and then I think it's Sabine throws like some kind of small bomb thing against the walker, and it falls on him, and he holds it. Just epic Star Wars moments, and he still gets up and he's still coming after them. And like you said, Colin, this is before Rogue One, so you are like, wow, like I've always wanted to watch this stuff. This is like a video game stuff. This is comic book stuff that you kind of dreamt of happening. So yeah, seeing that come to fruition. And then and then seeing Lando at the end was a fun thing. And he says to Hera, I believe he says, I think he says, "Oh, what do we have here? Like 2 here or something like that." Anyway, or "Hello, Captain," or something charming. Anyway. But yeah, just that Vader scene. Like I contemplated very closely putting that number 1. But yeah, it's an epic scene, no doubt. And yeah, he kind of stole the show. You know, really, like the whole series. Like every moment he was in it was like absolutely fantastic. And I kind of wished he was in it in season 4. Even just like maybe just like by Palpatine's side. But yeah, absolutely love all the Vader moments. Yeah, and to be honest, this is overall summarizing the series. This is my favorite Star Wars series. I put it above Clone Wars, and I put it above Mandalorian at the moment. Mandalorian's number 2. It's like neck and neck, but I do love this so much. There's so much epicness, like we've all discussed in this series. But yeah, but anyway, that's our top 5, Colin.
It is. Crystal, any final thoughts on this list? Like, do you think we nailed it? Do you think we got a pretty good list here?
Yeah, I definitely think we nailed it. And I like that we all had different things with like crossover. There's just so much that the show has to offer. When I was going through trying to pick my top 5, like I wrote so many notes because I'm like, how do I pick one? Like there are just so many moments that contribute to not just the series, but Star Wars overall. Yeah, it's awesome.
I would say like my honorable mention, and then is probably Sabine learning the ways of the Darksaber. That of course has to be thrown in there. Like we can't have a show without mentioning that. I mean, it's just like learning the whole history of that, which now I feel like is like paying off. So heavy. You know, everyone asking like, "What's up with this Darksaber?" I'm like, "Ooh, well, actually, let me tell you. Let me cite specific sources."
I think in that episode you see the history of the Darksaber as well. Like they tell that little monologue of, you know, it's got
like a little animation, right? It's got like a cool little animation of the first Mandalorian
Jedi, and then they takes the Darksaber from the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and then that was a leader of House Vizsla, blah, blah, blah. You don't learn all that. You're like, oh, okay, that explains that kind of mystery and mythology around that. So, yeah, that was extra spice on that, yeah.
Just tying it all together. So, folks, I think that'll do it for this episode of We Have the High Ground. Crystal, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
And where can the fine folks of the internet find you?
So you can find me at Crystal Kyber on YouTube. I also have Twitter that I spend a lot of time on Twitter, Crystal Kyber. Hit me up.
Awesome. And Bogz, what are you getting into today?
Oh, well, later on today, we are going live. First time in a while. Well, not today, as in when this drops. I'm not 100% sure what time. But yeah, Friday, today, 4 p.m. Pacific, Colin? Yes, 4 p.m. Pacific, we are going live on YouTube. That's The Ultimate Shmonar Show. Catch us on there. We've got a few guests coming on. We're in the off-season on that at the moment, so we're just talking a couple of things in the news and run through some details, some guests. And yeah, catch us probably on Sunday, where we have a Pop 2 episode where we'll be reviewing the WandaVision episode that dropped. And yeah, just thank you so much, Crystal, for coming on. Please don't be a stranger to the show. We'd love to have you back on. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, and yeah, can't wait to watch your other work as well on YouTube and stuff, because I really like it. Anyone watching, please subscribe, like to her stuff. She's really good. You won't regret it.
Yeah, and we will put her stuff down below. We will put a link to the stuff in the description of this video. And folks, you can find me at _C Morris wherever we are sold. And next week, look forward to possibly the review of Light of the Jedi if Bogz and I can get through it, because this is it's pretty good. It's telling a story. We'll see what it's doing. This is a lot of setup for the telling of the High Republic. This is really setting the stage for everything's at. I will give a quick spoiler. There's a moment where a guy is trying to do a presentation in a room full of people, and he actually has to plug his data pad into the service droid next to him, and I feel like that's a little retro for Star Wars, so they're trying to be not everything's as futuristic as it is 500 300 years from now, so they're kind of trying to date stuff a little bit. They're not quite as advanced in certain areas, so it's doing a pretty good job, and Charles Soule's one hell of a writer. So, well, folks, that'll do it. Don't bump the mic. For this episode of We Have the High Ground. We'll catch you here next time. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then. Bye!